Greetings, I'm Carol. I felt compelled to share my story after my sister-in-law, Margaret, suggested it might be a good idea. Margaret isn't just family. She's also one of my closest friends. Our paths crossed in a unique way, as she was instrumental in introducing me to Edward, my beloved husband. We were colleagues once, and I owe a lot to her for playing matchmaker for us. Edward and Margaret are incredible people, the kind you're grateful to have in your life. Their mother, Amy, however, is a different story. From the get-go, Amy made it clear she wasn't my biggest fan. The first time we met, she didn't mince words about her dislike for me, which caught both Edward and me off guard. Despite our best efforts to warm her up, Amy's antics only escalated, making life quite challenging. I won't bore you with all the details, but one incident that stands out is at my wedding. Amy managed to spill wine on her dress and blamed me for it, claiming I did it on purpose. No one took her side, but the incident still cast a shadow over my special day. Edward and I often found ourselves at odds over his mom's behavior. Amy, being a single mom, had a very tight grip on Edward, which made it hard for him to see her actions. This ongoing saga reached a boiling point around our first anniversary. By this time, Amy had a history of trying to spoil our significant moments. The situation escalated when, on our anniversary, Amy decided to visit and stay with us. I was already tense about her being in our home when Margaret called with some alarming news. She warned me that Amy was plotting to cause a scene and embarrass me during our anniversary celebrations. Despite Edward and Margaret's support, it was clear Amy's behavior was relentless. I desperately wanted to distance myself from Amy's toxic influence, but Edward was torn. She was his mother, after all, and he felt compelled to keep her in his life, despite the chaos she brought. This ongoing dilemma over handling Amy put a strain on our marriage, illustrating the complex dynamics of family ties and the challenges they present. Hesitatingly, I considered whether to invite Amy to our anniversary celebration. Edward, however, insisted on her presence. Margaret's call only confirmed my fears. Amy was indeed a harbinger of negativity. This time, her plan was astonishingly malicious, framing me for stealing her precious heirloom necklace. Without providing specifics, Margaret warned me of Amy's scheme, revealing her intent to label me a thief, believing it would compel Edward to abandon me. This revelation was overwhelming. Amy's determination knew no bounds. Determined to stay vigilant, I was frustrated by the intrusion of such drama on what should have been a joyous occasion. Our anniversary wasn't about lavish celebrations, but about cherishing moments with close ones. Yet Amy's shadow loomed large, threatening to mar the celebration. I debated sharing Margaret's warning with Edward, but hesitated, feeling he needed to recognize and address his mother's toxic influence independently. Thus, I monitored Amy discreetly, hoping to catch her in the act. Yet she remained elusive as our anniversary approached. The day of the celebration arrived without any sign of Amy's plot unfolding. Margaret, who had arrived early to help, found no opportunity to thwart Amy's plan. Unexpectedly, Amy confronted me directly, seizing a moment as I was refreshing my drink. Her words were laced with venom, accusing me of orchestrating the event as a victory celebration over her. She insinuated that my marriage was an act of theft, robbing her of Edward. Amy's tirade underscored her belief that she was in a competition she refused to lose, hinting at her sinister plans without revealing them. This confrontation not only confirmed her intentions, but also highlighted the depth of her animosity. Unveiled were the lengths to which she was willing to go to undermine our relationship, casting a shadow over our anniversary with her unresolved grievances and threats. Confident in my ability to clear my name if push came to shove, I felt somewhat reassured by Margaret's presence right beside me. She had witnessed her mom's aggressive maneuver at our party and decided to stick around, perhaps foreseeing the inevitable drama Amy was bound to unleash. The party was buzzing with energy when, in a theatrical twist, Amy excused herself to ostensibly adorn herself with her forgotten jewelry. Margaret and I exchanged knowing looks, silently agreeing on the predictability of Amy's antics. Not long after, Amy's dramatic scream cut through the festivities, her performance so over the top it could rival a melodramatic play. She appeared, visibly distressed, claiming her necklace and earrings had vanished into thin air. Her despair seemed genuine to some, but Margaret and I were not fooled. We silently observed as Amy played the victim, wailing about her lost jewelry in front of the concerned guests, my husband included. As the inquiry into the jewelry's whereabouts began, Amy oscillated between tearful denials and calculated shock. Then, with an almost comical suddenness, she claimed a revelation. Her jewelry hadn't just been misplaced. It had been stolen. And not by just anyone, but by me, according to her. Edward tried to reason with her, suggesting the jewelry was merely lost within the house. But Amy was relentless, accusing me in front of everyone and causing a collective gasp. Despite the absurdity of the accusation, Edward's reaction showed a mix of shock and embarrassment, though I knew his trust in me wasn't shaken. Edward was quick to jump to my defense, making it clear he trusted me completely. Despite his deep affection for his mom, his love for me was just as strong, and he didn't hesitate to speak up. "Mom, accusing Carol of theft isn't fair. She wouldn't do anything like that. You've probably just misplaced it," Edward argued, standing firmly by my side. Amy, however, persisted with her accusations, twisting my admiration for her heirloom jewelry into a motive for the theft. "Edward, my dear, you're being blinded by your feelings. Carol's compliments were nothing but a veil for her greed," she claimed, convinced of her narrative. The argument between Edward and Amy escalated, drawing the attention of our guests. It was a strange and embarrassing scenario to be accused of stealing, especially during our anniversary celebration. But I was determined to rise above the situation. Facing Amy's allegations head-on, I countered, "To accuse me of theft in my home, to suggest I'd stoop so low as to steal your jewelry, is outrageous, Amy. I've done nothing of the sort." Amy then claimed to have seen me sneaking into her room with a bag, insinuating I had taken the jewelry then. "Your baseless assumptions have no place here, Amy. You can't tarnish my reputation without a shred of proof," I responded, steadfast in my innocence. Amy proposed searching our room for the jewelry, confident she would find it there, suggesting it in front of everyone as if to challenge my honesty. Edward intervened, emphasizing the inappropriateness of invading our privacy on mere suspicion. Yet, considering Amy's relentless stance, I felt we had no choice but to agree to her search. It was the only way to dispel any lingering doubts among our guests, regardless of how invasive and disrespectful the suggestion was. The need to clear my name and maintain our dignity in our own home was paramount, even if it meant entertaining Amy's unfounded claims. Being labeled a thief by Amy was a heavy accusation that left Edward visibly conflicted. He recognized his mother's dramatics stemmed from her disapproval of me, yet the mystery of the missing jewelry made the situation unavoidably serious. Edward, wanting to clear the air, suggested a search of our room, a proposal that led everyone on a tense search through our personal space. Amy, convinced of her narrative, beelined for my closet and miraculously produced her jewelry box, which I suspected she had placed there herself. Her triumphant accusation rang out, "See, Edward, I told you she took it. She's driven by greed and envy." Edward, however, found the scenario hard to believe, expressing his trust in me and questioning how the jewelry ended up in our closet. The situation escalated when Amy was not satisfied with just accusing me. Decided to involve the police, convinced she had conclusive proof of my guilt. As whispers spread through the room, the weight of public judgment pressed heavily on me. Yet I maintained my innocence, facing the baseless accusations with a calm demeanor. Amy didn't stop at calling the police. She took the opportunity to further slander me, casting aspersions on my character and urging Edward to see me as a gold digger, unworthy of being part of the family. But Edward questioned the wisdom of involving law enforcement, hinting at potential repercussions Amy hadn't considered. Margaret supported Edward's skepticism, suggesting Amy's decision to call the police might backfire. Despite Amy's confidence in her actions, Edward and Margaret's warnings hinted at an unfolding scenario that could dramatically shift the blame away from me, suggesting that Amy's attempt to vindicate herself might instead unveil a truth she hadn't anticipated. Seeing Amy so confident in her accusation, I couldn't help but find humor in the absurdity of the situation. Margaret and I exchanged amused glances, aware of the irony at play. Laughter, in the face of what seemed like imminent arrest, must have puzzled the onlookers, making them question my sanity. Once the amusement settled, I addressed Amy, marveling at the elaborate scheme she had concocted to frame me as a thief. Amy feigned innocence in response to my accusation, prompting Margaret to intervene. "Oh, come on, Mom. Carol didn't steal anything. You've orchestrated this whole scenario," Margaret boldly stated, her words sending a shockwave through the room and causing Amy to falter for a moment. Despite Amy's attempt to maintain her charade, I revealed that Margaret had already informed me of her mother's plan to falsely accuse me. Amy's act of innocence crumbled as she struggled to defend herself without evidence to support her claims. We might not have direct proof of you plotting this, but we have something even better, I hinted, drawing everyone's attention to the ultimate piece of evidence that would clear my name. Amy's reaction to my mention of the house cameras was priceless. The color drained from her face as she realized her oversight. Perhaps she assumed our security measures were limited to the exterior of the house, not considering the interior surveillance that recorded every move. Edward, too, seemed to have momentarily forgotten about the cameras, but the reminder brought a sense of relief and anticipation. The truth was about to be unveiled, thanks to the unassuming eyes of our home security system, set to expose the real perpetrator behind the so-called theft. Edward's reminder about the security cameras in our home brought a new perspective to the situation. We have cameras installed that offer a view outside each room. It's time we looked at the footage to see what happened, he asserted, countering Amy's plea to take her word for it without any verification. Despite Amy's objections, emphasizing her maternal bond in an attempt to sway Edward, he stood firm in his quest for truth. I need to see for myself, Mom. Without proof, I can't accept such a serious accusation against Carol, he stated, determined to uncover the facts. I retrieved the footage from our home security system, presenting it as Amy tried in vain to prevent Edward from viewing it. The situation escalated as the police arrived, informed by Amy's claims that I was a criminal. Undeterred, I presented my defense, offering the footage as evidence of my innocence and Amy's deceit. The video unambiguously showed Amy placing her jewelry in my closet, an act that she had orchestrated to frame me. The revelation stunned everyone, including Edward, who confronted his mother with unprecedented anger. Amy's tearful attempt at an explanation was met with Edward's outright rejection. How could you do this? Carol has only been kind, and you repay her with betrayal, Edward lamented, declaring his disbelief and disappointment in his mother's actions. At that moment, the truth was laid bare, not only vindicating me, but also revealing the lengths to which Amy would go to manipulate those around her. On our anniversary, Edward expressed his disbelief and disappointment in his mother's actions, declaring a decision to cut contact with her. I'm ashamed and can't believe you'd go this far, Mom. Margaret and I agree we're done with you. Stay away from us, he firmly stated. This declaration sent Amy into a frenzy of tears as she desperately clutched at Edward, pleading for forgiveness from both him and Margaret. The spectacle was met with disapproval from the gathered guests, family members who did not hesitate to voice their criticism against Amy's manipulative actions. Amidst this chaos, the officers present suggested I could file a report against Amy for her false accusations. Recognizing the gravity of her actions, I agreed to press charges, seeking justice for the unwarranted attack on my character. Edward supported my decision, underscoring the severity of his mother's wrongdoing. You have my full support, Carol. What Mom did is unforgivable, he said, reinforcing his stance against his mother's deceit. As the police moved to arrest Amy, the reality of her situation began to dawn on her. Her pleas for forgiveness escalated as she was handcuffed, a poignant reminder of the consequences of her actions. Despite her cries and attempts to appeal to our sympathy, the decision was made. Amy's actions had crossed a line, leading to a moment of reckoning that none of us could have anticipated. As Amy implored me to reconsider, highlighting the embarrassment of being arrested in front of family and guests, I reminded her of her own philosophy on dealing with criminals. Amy, you were the one who said criminals should face consequences to prevent worse behavior. It seems only right to follow your advice, I stated, unmoved by her sudden pleas for mercy and attempts at reconciliation. Her shock at hearing her own logic used against her was palpable, but her apologies did little to sway the judgment of those present. The officers promptly escorted Amy away, while Edward and I proceeded to the police station to complete the necessary paperwork. Margaret remained to manage the aftermath and attend to our guests. At the station, as we prepared to file the report, I sought Edward's full agreement, aware of the emotional toll this situation was taking on him. Edward, are you sure about this? If you have any doubts, we can still reconsider, I offered, wanting to ensure his full support. No, Carol, there's no turning back. I should have shielded you from her actions long ago. My failure to do so has led us here, and filing this report is non-negotiable. You must know, I never doubted your innocence. Not for a moment, Edward affirmed, his resolve clear despite the emotional conflict of taking legal action against his mother. Understanding Edward's inner turmoil, I sympathized with his position. Despite his mother's actions, his love for her made the situation all the more painful. Acknowledging this complexity, we both recognized the necessity of moving forward with the report, a step towards protecting our future from further turmoil and ensuring justice was served. With Edward's support firmly behind me, I proceeded to file the police report. He vowed that Amy would no longer have a place in our lives, marking a pivotal moment for us. To strengthen our relationship and navigate through the aftermath of this ordeal, we decided to seek couples counseling, a step towards reinforcing our bond. Despite the day's earlier chaos, Edward and I chose not to let Amy's actions overshadow our anniversary. The celebration continued amidst the presence of our loved ones, who provided unwavering support. The festive atmosphere, filled with food and joy, was a testament to our resilience. Margaret, alongside us, found reasons to smile and enjoy, even as Amy faced the consequences of her actions. In an unexpected turn, Amy opted for a settlement instead of a court battle. Through negotiations with my lawyer, I received compensation, a bittersweet resolution to the saga. While it didn't undo the hurt, it marked an end to our direct confrontation with Amy, who, I hope, reflects on her actions and finds a path to change. The decision to sever ties with Amy was unanimous among Edward, Margaret, and myself, with some family members following suit. Others chose a more passive approach, wary of Amy's potential for spite, but not yet ready to cut ties completely. This decision significantly lightened our lives, allowing us to move forward without her shadow looming over us. The positive changes were palpable. Our marriage grew stronger, bolstered by counseling and mutual understanding. Now, as we await the arrival of our first child, we are united in our decision to keep Amy at a distance, ensuring our family's future is filled with love and security, free from past tumults.